Jungkook cancels his wedding moments before saying, "I do," then confesses a secret about Jimin that shocks the entire world. "Stop the wedding." The words crashed through the cathedral like thunder. For one terrifying second, nobody moved. The orchestra froze in the middle of a note. Hundreds of guests stared toward the altar. Crystal chandeliers trembled above the crowd, scattering golden reflections across polished marble floors. And at the center of it all stood Jungkook. His hands were shaking. His breathing was uneven. His eyes were fixed on only one person. Not the bride standing beside him. Not the cameras broadcasting the ceremony worldwide. Not the celebrities filling the front rows. His eyes were searching the crowd. Searching for Jimin. A ripple of confusion spread through the audience. Whispers exploded everywhere. What did he say? Did he stop the wedding? This has to be a joke. The bride's smile vanished. "Jungkook," she whispered. But he looked as if he couldn't even hear her. Years of pressure. Years of silence. Years of fear. Everything was collapsing inside him. And for the first time in his life, he wasn't running away. Outside the cathedral, rain hammered against stained glass windows. Lightning flashed. The sky itself seemed to crack open. Inside, the atmosphere became suffocating. Jungkook stepped away from the altar. Gasps echoed through the room. The bride stared at him with tears already gathering in her eyes. "What are you doing?" she asked. He swallowed hard. His voice broke. "I'm sorry." The entire world seemed to stop breathing. Millions of viewers watched through live broadcasts. Social media platforms crashed under the flood of reactions. Nobody understood what was happening. Not yet. Jungkook slowly turned toward the audience. Toward the man sitting in the fifth row. Toward Park Jimin. Jimin's heart nearly stopped. His fingers tightened around the armrest. "No. No. Please don't. Not here. Not now." Jungkook took another step. Then another. The silence became unbearable. Every footstep echoed like a gunshot. Jimin's pulse raced. His mind flooded with memories. Late-night conversations. Hidden smiles. Promises never spoken aloud. Years of protecting each other. Years of pretending. Years of burying emotions so deeply that even they had begun believing the lies. Jungkook finally stopped in front of him. The entire cathedral watched. The entire world watched. Jimin looked up. Their eyes met. And suddenly everything else disappeared. The guests. The cameras. The storm. The wedding. Nothing existed except that single moment. Jungkook's voice trembled. "I can't do this anymore." Jimin felt his chest tighten. His worst fear was unfolding in front of everyone. "What are you talking about?" Jimin asked quietly. Jungkook laughed bitterly. The sound carried unimaginable sadness. "For years I've been lying." The audience remained frozen. Nobody dared interrupt. Jungkook looked down briefly. Then he raised his head again. His eyes glistened. "When people asked me who inspired me," his voice cracked. "It was him." The room erupted with whispers. Jimin stared in disbelief. "When people asked me who gave me strength," Jungkook continued, "it was always him." The whispers grew louder. Some guests exchanged stunned looks. Others reached for their phones. The bride lowered her gaze. A painful understanding slowly appeared on her face. Jungkook continued speaking. Each word felt like a piece of his soul being exposed. "When I was scared." He looked directly at Jimin. He was there. Flash. A memory. Young Jungkook sitting alone after a difficult performance. Jimin bringing him food. Staying beside him until sunrise. Flash. Another memory. Jungkook struggling with anxiety. Jimin silently holding his hand beneath a table where nobody could see. Flash. Another. A rooftop. A midnight conversation. Two hearts almost confessing. Almost. But never crossing the line. Because fear was stronger. Fear of judgment. Fear of losing everything. Fear of destroying the bond they treasured. Now that fear was gone. Or perhaps something stronger had finally replaced it. Love. Raw. Terrifying. Unavoidable. Jungkook took a shaky breath. His voice became barely audible. I tried to move on. Jimin couldn't look away. I really tried. Tears slid down Jungkook's cheeks. I convinced myself that I could build another future. His gaze drifted toward the bride. Pain filled his eyes. I'm sorry. The bride nodded silently. She was crying too. But there was no anger in her expression. Only heartbreak. Only acceptance. Because deep down she had always known. There had always been someone else occupying the place she could never reach. Jungkook turned back to Jimin. The world seemed to disappear once again. Every path I took led back to you. Jimin's breathing stopped. His heart pounded violently. The storm outside intensified. Thunder roared overhead. And then Jungkook finally said the words he had carried for years. The words that changed everything. I love you. The cathedral exploded into chaos. Guests gasped. Some cried. Some stood in disbelief. Phones appeared everywhere. Reporters rushed toward exits to deliver breaking news. But neither Jungkook nor Jimin noticed. They only saw each other. Jimin felt tears burning his eyes. His entire body trembled. For years he had imagined this moment. And for years he had convinced himself it would never happen. Because dreams like this belonged in stories. Not reality. Yet reality was standing directly in front of him. Broken. Terrified. Honest. Jungkook waited. The longest seconds of his life. His heart felt exposed. Defenseless. If Jimin rejected him now. No, he couldn't even think about it. Then Jimin slowly stood. Silence returned. Everyone watched. Jimin's eyes were overflowing with emotion. 1,000 memories lived inside them. 1,000 unsaid confessions. He stepped forward. One step. Then another. Until he stood directly before Jungkook. Neither spoke. Words suddenly felt too small. Too weak. Too inadequate for years of hidden feelings. Jimin lifted a trembling hand. He touched Jungkook's cheek. Warm tears met warm skin. Jungkook closed his eyes. For a moment he looked like someone finally allowed to rest after carrying an impossible burden. When he opened his eyes again, Jimin was smiling through tears. A fragile smile. A beautiful smile. The kind that appears only after surviving heartbreak. You idiot, Jimin whispered. Several guests laughed through their tears. Jungkook laughed too. A broken laugh. A relieved laugh. Jimin shook his head. I waited so long. Jungkook stared at him. So did I. The storm outside gradually softened. Rain continued falling. But now it sounded peaceful. Almost gentle. As if the world itself had stopped fighting. The bride quietly removed her wedding veil. She walked toward them. The audience fell silent again. Nobody knew what she would do. She stopped in front of Jungkook. Then she smiled sadly. You should have told yourself the truth sooner. Jungkook lowered his head. I'm sorry. She nodded. I know. Then she surprised everyone. She hugged him. The crowd erupted with emotion. Many guests openly cried. When she stepped back, she turned toward Jimin. Take care of him. Jimin nodded immediately. I will. For the first time that day, genuine peace appeared on her face. She walked away. Not defeated. Not angry. Simply ready to begin a different chapter of her life. Hours later, the story dominated every headline on Earth. Some celebrated. Some criticized. Some argued. Some refused to believe it. The world became louder than ever. But inside a quiet room overlooking the city, none of that mattered. Jungkook stood near a window. The skyline glowed beneath the rain-soaked night. Behind him, Jimin sat on a sofa. For a long time neither spoke. The silence felt different now. Comfortable. Honest. No masks. No pretending. No fear. Finally Jimin broke the silence. Was it worth it? Jungkook looked outside. He thought about the chaos. The backlash. The uncertainty waiting tomorrow. Then he smiled. A genuine smile. The kind he hadn't worn in years. He turned toward Jimin. And answered with absolute certainty. Yes. Jimin smiled back. The city lights reflected in his eyes. For the first time, they weren't running from the truth. For the first time, they weren't hiding. For the first time, the future belonged to them. And although the world would never stop talking about the wedding that never happened, history would remember something far greater. Not the cancellation. Not the scandal. Not the headlines. But the moment a frightened heart chose honesty over fear. The moment a confession changed two lives forever. The moment Jungkook finally walked away from the altar. And toward the person he had loved all along. The morning after the cancelled wedding felt less like a sunrise and more like the aftermath of an earthquake. Every television screen in the country carried the same image. Jungkook standing in front of Jimin. Tears in his eyes. The confession. The shock. The moment that changed everything. Inside a luxury penthouse overlooking Seoul, silence hung heavily in the air. Jungkook sat on the edge of a couch with dark circles beneath his eyes. He hadn't slept. Not even for a minute. His phone vibrated continuously on the table. Thousands. Millions. Messages. Calls. Notifications. The entire world wanted a piece of him. He ignored every single one. Across the room, Jimin stood beside the window. Rainwater slid down the glass. The city below looked restless. Just like them. Neither man knew what would happen next. For years they had hidden behind careful smiles and half-finished sentences. Now the truth was out. There was nowhere left to hide. Finally Jimin spoke. Have you checked the news? Jungkook laughed bitterly. No, you should. I don't want to. Jimin turned around. His face was serious. You need to. Jungkook reluctantly grabbed the remote. The television came alive instantly. Breaking news banners filled every channel. The hosts looked excited. Shocked. Hungry. One headline flashed across the screen. The confession that stopped the world. Another followed. Jungkook chooses love over his wedding. Another. Scandal or courage. Jimin sighed. Neither of them expected mercy. Then a new headline appeared. And the atmosphere changed instantly. Secret photos of Jungkook and Jimin leaked online. Both men froze. What? Jungkook whispered. The screen displayed blurry photographs. Some were years old. Some recent. Moments they had thought nobody noticed. Late-night dinners. Private vacations. Shared umbrellas. Hidden smiles. Private conversations. Nothing romantic. Nothing inappropriate. Yet together they painted a story. A story the public was eager to believe. Jimin's face turned pale. Who released those? Jungkook's jaw tightened. I don't know. His voice became dangerously calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that appears before a storm. Then another image appeared. And this one changed everything. Jungkook stood up so suddenly, the remote fell to the floor. No. Jimin's eyes widened. The photograph showed them on a rooftop years earlier. The night they nearly confessed. The night nobody should have known about. The image had been taken from far away. Someone had been watching them. Someone had followed them. For years. A chill spread through the room. This wasn't a coincidence, Jimin whispered. Jungkook stared at the screen. His fists clenched. Someone had been collecting pieces of their lives. Waiting. Planning. Preparing. The realization was terrifying. Suddenly Jungkook's phone rang. An unknown number. He almost ignored it. Almost. Something stopped him. He answered. Hello. A distorted voice spoke. I wondered how long it would take you to notice. The room instantly went cold. Jungkook's expression darkened. Who is this? Soft laughter answered. A laugh that sounded strangely familiar. You've disappointed a lot of powerful people. Jimin immediately moved closer. Fear flashed across his face. The voice continued. The wedding was supposed to happen. Jungkook's pulse accelerated. What do you want? Another laugh. Then silence. Then one final sentence. Check your front door. The call ended. Both men stared at each other. Neither moved. For several seconds, the only sound was their breathing. Then Jungkook walked toward the entrance. Slowly. Carefully. His instinct screamed that something was wrong. Jimin followed. The door stood closed. Nothing unusual. At first. Then they noticed it. A black envelope resting on the floor. Neither had heard anyone approach. Jungkook picked it up. His hands trembled. Inside was a single photograph. And one sentence. The photograph showed Jungkook as a teenager. Standing beside a man. A man he hadn't seen in nearly 10 years. A man who was supposed to be gone forever. Jungkook immediately lost color in his face. Jimin stared. Who is that? Jungkook couldn't answer. The memories hit him all at once. Painful memories. Dangerous memories. The man in the photograph wasn't family. He wasn't a friend. He was the person responsible for one of the darkest periods of Jungkook's life. The person who had manipulated him. Controlled him. Broken his confidence when he was young. Someone he believed had disappeared forever. Below the photograph were 4 handwritten words. He is coming back. Jimin looked up. Fear filled his eyes. What does this mean? Jungkook finally spoke. His voice sounded hollow. It means our problems are only beginning. Hours later, chaos erupted outside the building. Fans, reporters, cameras, protesters, supporters. Everyone wanted answers. Security struggled to control the crowds. Inside, however, another storm was brewing. The company executives demanded an emergency meeting. Managers called non-stop. Lawyers arrived. Public relations teams prepared statements. Nobody knew how to handle the situation. Inside a private conference room that evening, the tension became unbearable. Executives sat around a massive table. Faces serious. Voices cold. One executive leaned forward. You have caused enormous damage. Jungkook stared back without fear. Another executive spoke. Investors are panicking. Another. Several contracts are already suspended. Another. You should release an apology. Jimin's eyes narrowed. An apology for what? The room fell silent. Nobody expected him to speak. The executive cleared his throat. For the disruption. Jimin laughed. The sound carried no humor. No. Every head turned. Jimin stood. For years he had been patient. Polite. Careful. Today something inside him snapped. No more hiding. The executives looked stunned. Jimin's voice grew stronger. If you're asking him to apologize for telling the truth, then the answer is no. A dangerous silence followed. One executive slammed his hand onto the table. This isn't about truth. Then what is it about? Money. The word remained unspoken. Yet everyone heard it. Jungkook slowly rose from his chair. His eyes burned with determination. For the first time in years, he wasn't afraid. You want me to regret what I did? Nobody answered. That's not happening. The room became tense. Electric. Jungkook continued. I spent years living for everyone else. His voice echoed through the conference room. Now I'm going to live for myself. Nobody spoke after that. Because nobody knew how. The old Jungkook would have surrendered. The old Jungkook would have obeyed. The man standing before them now was different. Stronger. More dangerous. More honest. Later that night, after the meeting ended, Jimin and Jungkook escaped to the rooftop. The city lights stretched endlessly around them. The air smelled of rain. Neither spoke for several minutes. The exhaustion finally caught up to them. Jimin leaned against the railing. You scared me yesterday. Jungkook smiled weakly. I scared myself. Jimin laughed quietly. The first genuine laugh all day. Then his expression softened. You really would have gone through with the wedding? It wasn't a question. Jungkook looked away. The answer hurt. Yes. Jimin lowered his gaze. The truth stung more than expected. Jungkook noticed immediately. He stepped closer. Do you know why? Jimin didn't answer. Because I was afraid. The city wind carried his words into the darkness. I was terrified of losing you. Jimin looked up. Confusion crossed his face. That doesn't make sense. It does. Jungkook's eyes glistened. If I confessed and you didn't feel the same. His voice cracked. I would have lost everything. Jimin stared at him. Years of hidden pain suddenly became visible. Years of misunderstanding. Years of silence. Slowly Jimin stepped closer. Only inches separated them now. I loved you too. The words came out softly. Yet they hit harder than any scream. Jungkook closed his eyes. As if hearing them finally healed something inside him. I know. You didn't know. I hoped. Jimin smiled through tears. For a long moment neither moved. The city sparkled beneath them. The future remained uncertain. The world remained chaotic. Enemies remained hidden. Questions remained unanswered. But for the first time, they stood together without lies between them. And somehow that made the darkness feel less frightening. Far below, however, another pair of eyes watched the rooftop from inside a black vehicle parked across the street. A man sat in the shadows. His face hidden. A photograph rested in his hand. The same photograph delivered earlier. A slow smile appeared on his lips. Welcome back, Jungkook. The man started the engine. The vehicle disappeared into the night. And neither Jungkook nor Jimin knew that the most dangerous chapter of their story had only just begun. The next morning arrived with an unsettling silence. For the first time in days, there were no reporters screaming outside the building. No helicopters. No crowds. No flashing cameras. It should have felt like peace. Instead, it felt wrong. Jimin noticed it first. He stood in the kitchen holding a cup of coffee while staring through the enormous glass windows of the penthouse. His instincts refused to relax. The city below moved normally. Cars filled the streets. People walked to work. Everything appeared ordinary. Yet a strange feeling lingered in his chest. A warning. Jungkook entered the room moments later. He looked exhausted. Dark circles surrounded his eyes. Sleep had become impossible. The mysterious photograph remained on his mind. The unknown caller. The hidden stalker. The man from his past. Everything felt connected. He grabbed a bottle of water. You haven't slept either. Jimin shook his head. No. Jungkook sat beside him. For a few moments neither spoke. Then Jungkook quietly said something unexpected. I never told you everything. Jimin looked at him. The seriousness in Jungkook's eyes immediately caught his attention. What do you mean? Jungkook stared at the city. His jaw tightened. The man in that photograph. A painful silence followed. Jimin waited. Years of friendship had taught him patience. Eventually Jungkook spoke again. When I was 19, someone tried to control my life. Jimin frowned. What kind of control? Jungkook's expression darkened. The kind that destroys people. The memories clearly hurt. Even now. Even after all these years. Jimin could see it. The invisible scars. The old wounds. The fear. Jungkook slowly continued. He wasn't part of my family. I know. He wasn't part of the company either. Then who was he? Jungkook finally looked at him. His eyes carried something Jimin rarely saw. Pure hatred. He was my mentor. The answer surprised him. Jimin had never heard that name before. Never. Not once. Which was unusual. There had been very few secrets between them. Until now. Jungkook's voice became colder. His name is Kang Minu. The name sounded ordinary. Yet the reaction it caused wasn't. Jungkook's hands were shaking. He found me when I was young. Flashbacks flooded his mind. A younger Jungkook. Lost. Insecure. Overwhelmed by fame. Then a charismatic older man appearing like a savior. Offering guidance. Protection. Advice. At first everything seemed perfect. Until the manipulation began. The criticism. The isolation. The emotional control. The psychological games. Slowly, almost invisibly, Kang Minu had turned himself into the center of Jungkook's world. Making every decision. Controlling every relationship. Determining every step. Jungkook looked away. He wanted ownership. Jimin's face hardened. Ownership. Over me. The room became silent. Jimin felt anger building inside him. What happened? Jungkook laughed bitterly. I escaped. Those two words carried years of pain. Jimin understood immediately. Some stories didn't require details. The damage was already visible. What happened to him afterward? He disappeared. Jimin frowned. And now? Jungkook picked up the photographs. The image seemed darker than before. Now he's back. Before either man could say another word, the elevator alarm suddenly rang. Both froze. Nobody was supposed to visit. Not today. The security system showed an unauthorized arrival. Jimin immediately stood. Did you invite someone? No. The alarm rang again. Then again. Then again. The sound echoed through the penthouse. Urgent. Aggressive. Wronged. Jungkook moved toward the security monitor. His heart nearly stopped. A single figure stood outside. Tall, well-dressed, motionless, waiting. Jimin stepped beside him. The moment he saw the screen, his expression changed. Is that him? Jungkook couldn't breathe. Because it was Kang Minu. Older, but unmistakable. The same sharp eyes. The same cold smile. The same terrifying presence. After 10 years, he had finally returned. The elevator doors opened. Security guards rushed forward. Yet surprisingly, Kang Minu offered no resistance. He simply smiled, as if he knew exactly what was about to happen. Minutes later, inside a private meeting room downstairs, the confrontation began. Jungkook entered first. Jimin refused to leave his side. The room felt suffocating. Kang Minu sat comfortably in a chair, like a king returning to his throne. His smile widened when he saw Jungkook. There you are. Jungkook's body tensed instantly. The voice, the posture, everything triggered painful memories. What do you want? Minu laughed softly. No hello. Answer me. The older man leaned back. His confidence was infuriating. You've changed. Jimin stepped forward. And you're trespassing. Minu finally looked at him. For several seconds he simply stared. Studying. Evaluating. Then he smiled. So you're Jimin. The room suddenly felt colder. Jimin narrowed his eyes. You know who I am. Minu chuckled. Of course. The answer immediately raised alarms. Jungkook's stomach tightened. The man continued. I've heard so much about you. Jimin disliked the way he said it. Like a hunter discussing prey. Like someone who knew far more than he should. Jungkook's patience snapped. What do you want? Minu slowly reached into his jacket. Security guards moved instantly. But he merely removed a small envelope. Then placed it on the table. Jungkook stared at it. Fear returned. Because he knew. Nothing good ever came from Kang Minu. Open it. No, open it. The smile vanished from Minu's face. For the first time, something dangerous appeared beneath his calm exterior. Jungkook reluctantly grabbed the envelope. Inside was a stack of photographs. The moment he saw them, his blood turned cold. Jimin looked over his shoulder. Then froze. The photographs showed moments from the past year. Private moments. Hidden moments. Moments nobody should have witnessed. Jungkook and Jimin walking together late at night. Talking inside a restaurant. Sitting beside a lake. Laughing. Sharing secrets. Living. Every image had been taken secretly. Without their knowledge. Without their permission. The realization was horrifying. Jimin's voice became dangerously quiet. You've been following us. Minu smiled again. Observing. Jungkook slammed the photographs onto the table. You're insane. No. Minu stood. His eyes locked onto Jungkook. I'm the only person who's ever truly understood you. The words made Jungkook visibly recoil. Years ago that sentence would have worked. Years ago it would have trapped him again. Not anymore. Leave. Minu's expression hardened. You're making a mistake. No. Jungkook stepped forward. For the first time in years he wasn't afraid. You were the mistake. Silence exploded between them. The words hit harder than any punch. For a moment Minu simply stared. As if he couldn't believe what he heard. Then something snapped. The mask disappeared. The charming mentor vanished. The monster underneath emerged. His eyes filled with rage. Everything you became happened because of me. No, you owe me. No, I built you. No. Each answer grew louder, stronger. Jimin watched in amazement. This was not the frightened 19-year-old boy from the stories. This was someone different. Someone free. Minu suddenly pointed toward Jimin. And this is why you've changed. The accusation echoed through the room. Jungkook's face darkened. Don't. You ruined him. Jimin laughed. The sound surprised everyone. Even Minu. Then Jimin stepped forward. His voice carried absolute confidence. No. Minu looked at him. Jimin didn't blink. I helped him remember who he was. The silence that followed felt explosive. Minu's expression twisted. For the first time he appeared shaken. Because deep down he knew it was true. Jungkook wasn't trapped anymore. Wasn't isolated anymore. Wasn't controllable anymore. And that terrified him. Security finally stepped forward. Sir, you need to leave. Minu looked at Jungkook one final time. Then at Jimin. A slow smile returned. But this time it looked dangerous. Almost triumphant. You think this is over? Nobody answered. Because nobody liked the certainty in his voice. As security escorted him away, he stopped at the doorway. Then he delivered one final sentence. A sentence that immediately froze the room. Ask Jimin about Paris. The door closed. Silence followed. Heavy, oppressive, terrifying. Jungkook slowly turned toward Jimin. His heartbeat accelerated. Because the expression on Jimin's face had changed completely. The color drained from his skin. His eyes widened. And for the first time since the wedding, genuine fear appeared in them. Jungkook stared. Confusion quickly becoming concern. Jimin couldn't speak. The room suddenly felt too small. Too hot. Too dangerous. Because Paris wasn't just a city. It was a secret. A secret buried years ago. A secret he had sworn nobody would ever discover. And somehow Kang Minu knew about it. Jungkook couldn't take his eyes off Jimin. The room had emptied. The security guards were gone. The executives had disappeared. Only the two of them remained. Yet the silence felt louder than the chaos that had filled the building minutes earlier. Jimin stood motionless beside the conference table. His face had become pale. His hands were trembling slightly. Jungkook had seen Jimin afraid before. He had seen him nervous before performances. He had seen him exhausted after difficult years. But this was different. This looked like fear from the past. The kind of fear that never truly disappears. Jimin. His voice was soft. No answer. Look at me. Slowly, Jimin raised his head. The sadness in his eyes immediately tightened something inside Jungkook's chest. What was he talking about? Jimin swallowed hard. I don't know how he found out. The answer only made things worse. Jungkook's heartbeat accelerated. What happened in Paris? For several seconds, Jimin remained silent. Then he sat down heavily in a chair. His shoulders looked exhausted. As if years had suddenly landed on them all at once. It happened 4 years ago. Jungkook sat across from him, listening carefully. It was during a fashion event. Jimin stared at the floor. His voice grew distant. Lost inside old memories. I wasn't supposed to be alone that night. Rain had fallen over Paris. The city had glowed beneath thousands of golden lights. Jimin remembered walking through empty streets after midnight. Trying to clear his thoughts. Trying to escape pressure. Trying to escape loneliness. Back then everything felt overwhelming. The expectations. The fame. The endless responsibility. Then he had witnessed something unexpected. A young woman standing near a bridge. Crying. Terrified. Surrounded by two men. Jungkook listened without interrupting. Jimin continued. They were threatening her. His voice hardened. I couldn't ignore it. The situation had escalated quickly. The men were drunk. Aggressive. Dangerous. Jimin had intervened. What started as an argument became a confrontation. Then violence. The memory still made his pulse quicken. I managed to get her away from them. Jungkook nodded slowly. Then what? Jimin looked away. One of them fell. The room became silent. A fall. Jimin closed his eyes. There was construction nearby. His voice became barely audible. He hit his head. Jungkook froze. The implications arrived instantly. The room suddenly felt colder. What happened to him? Jimin finally looked up. He survived. Jungkook released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. But Jimin's expression darkened. The media never found out. The weight behind those words was enormous. Jungkook immediately understood. The incident had been buried. Protected. Hidden. Not because Jimin had done something wrong, but because a scandal would have exploded internationally. The woman had disappeared afterward. The authorities never pursued charges. The case quietly vanished. At least that was what Jimin believed. Until today. Until Kang Minu spoke those words. Ask Jimin about Paris. Jungkook leaned forward. Did Minu know about it back then? Jimin nodded slowly. The answer hit like a punch. He was there. What? He saw everything. Jungkook stared. The revelation felt impossible. Jimin continued. He approached me afterward. The memory returned vividly. The rain. The flashing police lights. The fear. And then Kang Minu appearing from nowhere. Watching. Smiling. Offering help. Offering silence. Offering protection. But nothing Kang Minu ever offered came without a price. Jimin looked sick remembering it. He promised the story would disappear. Jungkook's jaw tightened. And it did. Yes. A terrible realization settled between them. Minu hadn't protected Jimin. He had collected leverage. Stored it. Waited. Patiently. Like a predator. For years. Jungkook stood abruptly. Anger surged through him. He planned this. Jimin nodded. He always plans everything. The room fell silent again. Then Jungkook's phone rang. Unknown number. Both men immediately stared at it. The same feeling. The same dread. Jungkook answered. Talk. Soft laughter greeted him. Kang Minu. Again. Did you enjoy the conversation? Jungkook's eyes darkened. What do you want? I want what belongs to me. Jimin clenched his fists. The voice continued calmly. You've forgotten who made you. Jungkook laughed. A dangerous laugh. No, I remember perfectly. Minu remained silent. Then Jungkook continued. And that's exactly why I'm never going back. For the first time, the older man's voice lost some of its confidence. You think you're strong now. I know I am. The tension became electric. Jimin could almost feel it through the phone. Minu spoke again. You'll regret this. No. Jungkook stepped toward the window. His reflection stared back at him. Older. Wiser. Free. I already regret the years I gave you. Silence. Long silence. Then Minu's voice returned. Colder than before. Then let's see how much Jimin is willing to sacrifice for you. The call ended. Immediately. Without explanation. Without warnings. Jungkook lowered the phone. His heart was racing. Jimin looked equally disturbed. Neither liked what that sentence implied. Hours later, the city exploded again. This time, the attack came from somewhere nobody expected. A major news network released an anonymous report. The headline spread across every platform within minutes. Hidden secrets of the men behind the world's biggest scandal. The article contained photographs, private records, rumors, half-truths, manipulated narratives. Enough information to create chaos. The internet erupted. Supporters fought critics. Fans defended them. Opponents attacked them. The world became louder than ever. Jungkook stared at the screen. His expression remained unreadable. Then another notification appeared. And everything changed. A video. Recently uploaded. Unknown source. Millions of views within minutes. Jimin clicked play. The image appeared. Dark, shaky, recorded secretly. Then both men froze. Because the video showed Paris. 4 years ago. The bridge. The confrontation. The fall. Everything. Jimin felt his blood turn cold. No. His whisper barely escaped. The footage had been edited carefully. Important details removed. Critical context missing. The woman was absent. The threats were gone. Only the struggle remained. Only the fall. Only the image of Jimin standing nearby. A perfectly crafted lie. Jungkook immediately understood. Minu wasn't trying to reveal the truth. He was trying to destroy it. The comments beneath the video multiplied every second. Thousands. Tens of thousands. Hundreds of thousands. Judgments. Accusations. Speculation. Jimin stepped backward. The room suddenly felt difficult to breathe in. Years of fear returned instantly. Years of pressure. Years of protecting others. Years of hiding pain. Jungkook saw it happening. He crossed the room immediately. Jimin. No response. Look at me. Still nothing. Jimin's eyes remained fixed on the screen. Lost. Trapped. Jungkook grabbed his shoulders gently. Jimin. Finally. Their eyes met. Jungkook's voice softened. You're not alone. The words broke something inside him. Jimin looked away. His eyes filled with tears. I dragged you into this. No, I should have told you. No, Jimin's voice cracked. He'll keep coming. Jungkook didn't hesitate. Then let him. The answer stunned him. Jungkook stepped closer. His expression had become fearless. Almost frightening. For years he had allowed fear to control him. Not anymore. I'm done running. The city lights flickered outside as evening settled over Seoul. The atmosphere inside the penthouse grew quiet again. Not peaceful, but determined. Two people standing together against something larger than either of them. Jimin studied Jungkook's face. The certainty there felt real. Unshakable. Why are you still here? The question escaped before he could stop it. Jungkook blinked. What? Jimin laughed sadly. After everything. His voice trembled. The wedding. The scandal. The attacks. The secrets. His eyes glistened. You still stay. Jungkook stared at him for several seconds. Then he smiled. A small smile. A genuine one. The kind reserved only for Jimin. Because I spent too many years choosing fear. The city shimmered beyond the glass. The night stretched endlessly around them. Jungkook took another step closer. And I'm not making that mistake again. Jimin felt tears forming. Not from sadness. Not anymore. Something else. Something warmer. Something stronger. Hope. For the first time since the wedding, despite the threats, despite the scandals, despite the shadows gathering around them, hope felt possible. Neither of them noticed the black vehicle parked across the street. Neither noticed the man sitting inside. Watching. Waiting. A laptop glowed in the darkness. On its screen were dozens of files. Photographs. Videos. Secrets. Years of surveillance. Years of obsession. Kang Minu stared at one particular image. Jungkook and Jimin standing together. Refusing to break. His smile slowly disappeared. For the first time, anger replaced confidence. Because his plan had always depended on one thing. Fear. And fear was no longer controlling them. Which meant the next move would be far more dangerous than anything that had come before. Night covered Seoul beneath a blanket of rain and neon lights, but inside the penthouse, sleep remained impossible. Jungkook stood alone on the balcony. Cold wind pushed against his black shirt. The city stretched endlessly below him. Beautiful, dangerous, unforgiving. His mind replayed everything. The wedding, the confession, the attacks, the photographs, Paris, Kang Minu. Every memory felt connected to a larger puzzle he still couldn't fully see. Behind him, the balcony door slid open. Jimin stepped outside. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them had always been different from silence with anyone else. Comfortable, honest, real. Jimin leaned against the railing beside him. The rain had stopped, leaving only the scent of wet concrete and distant flowers carried by the wind. You should rest. Jungkook laughed softly. So should you. Neither moved. Neither intended to. Finally, Jimin looked toward him. What are you thinking about? Jungkook's expression darkened. The future. Jimin smiled sadly. That sounds terrifying. It is. For the first time that evening, they both laughed. A small laugh. A fragile laugh. The kind born from exhaustion. Then Jungkook's smile faded. What if this never stops? Jimin looked at him. What if what never stops? The attacks. His voice grew quieter. The judgment. The headlines. The pressure. The vulnerability surprised Jimin. Jungkook rarely admitted fear. Especially now. Especially after everything. Jimin studied him carefully. Then he stepped closer. So what? Jungkook frowned. So what? Jimin nodded. So what if they talk? The city lights reflected in his eyes. So what if people judge? His voice remained calm. They've been doing that our entire lives. Jungkook looked away. Jimin continued. The difference now is that we're finally telling the truth. The words settled heavily between them. Jungkook felt something warm inside his chest. Something he hadn't felt for years. Peace. Not complete peace. But enough. Enough to keep going. Enough to survive tomorrow. He opened his mouth to answer. Then every light in the penthouse suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Instantly. Completely. Jimin froze. Jungkook's instincts activated immediately. What happened? No answer. The city remained illuminated outside. Only the penthouse had gone dark. Which meant this wasn't a power outage. This was intentional. A chill ran through both of them. Then came a sound. A notification. Somewhere inside the apartment. A single electronic chime. Then another. Then another. Then dozens. Hundreds. Their phones. Tablets. Computers. Every device suddenly activated at once. The darkness filled with glowing screens. Jimin rushed inside. Jungkook followed. The sight that greeted them made both men stop instantly. Every screen displayed the same message. Hello again. Below it appeared another sentence. You still don't understand the game. Jungkook's jaw clenched. Kang Minu. A video automatically began playing. Static filled the screens. Then an image appeared. An old recording. The quality was poor. Grainy. Shaky. Yet immediately recognizable. Jungkook's heart nearly stopped. Because the person on the screen was him. 10 years younger. 19 years old. Lost. Vulnerable. And sitting directly across from Kang Minu. Jimin stared in disbelief. He had never seen this footage before. Never seen this version of Jungkook before. The young man on the screen looked completely different. Smaller somehow. Not physically. Emotionally. The confidence was missing. The light was dimmer. The recording continued. Young Jungkook spoke quietly. I don't know if I'm good enough. Across from him, Minu smiled. The same smile. The same manipulative smile. You don't need anyone except me. The room became silent. Jimin felt anger immediately. The psychological manipulation was obvious. Painfully obvious. Young Jungkook nodded uncertainly. Like someone desperately searching for guidance. Like someone drowning. The footage continued. For nearly 15 minutes. Every sentence revealed another layer of control. Another layer of emotional dependency. Another layer of abuse. By the time the video ended, Jimin could barely breathe. Now he understood. Now he truly understood. Why hearing Minu's voice affected Jungkook so deeply. Why those memories haunted him. Why the man frightened him. Jungkook looked away. Embarrassment burned inside him. Shame. Old shame. The kind survivors carry long after escaping. I was stupid. The words escaped quietly. Immediately Jimin turned toward him. No. Jungkook laughed bitterly. I believed everything. No. I trusted him. No. Jungkook finally looked up. Confusion crossed his face. Jimin stepped forward. His eyes filled with emotion. You were young. The words hit harder than expected. Jungkook remained silent. Jimin continued. You were lonely. His voice softened. You were overwhelmed. The room suddenly felt smaller. More intimate. More vulnerable. Jimin moved closer. And somebody took advantage of that. For several seconds Jungkook couldn't speak. Because nobody had ever framed it that way before. Not managers. Not executives. Not reporters. Nobody. Most people simply expected him to be strong. Expected him to recover. Expected him to move on. Jimin was the first person who acknowledged the wound itself. The first person who saw the 19-year-old boy behind the superstar. The first person who truly understood. Emotion filled Jungkook's eyes. Before he could respond, another notification appeared. A new video. The title immediately froze both men. The secret Jungkook never told Jimin. Neither spoke. A terrible feeling settled over the room. Slowly Jungkook pressed play. The screen flickered. Then another recording appeared. This one was even older. And far more dangerous. Jungkook immediately turned pale. No. Jimin's stomach tightened. The footage showed a private meeting. Years ago. A contract. Documents spread across a table. Young Jungkook sitting beside Minu. Looking trapped. Looking terrified. The audio crackled. Then a voice became clear. Minu's voice. If you sign this, nobody gets hurt. Jimin frowned. What contract? Jungkook couldn't answer. The younger version of himself appeared frozen on screen. Scared. Alone. Cornered. The recording continued. Then came the sentence that changed everything. If you ever choose Park Jimin over your career, everything disappears. Silence exploded inside the penthouse. Jimin froze. Jungkook froze. The world seemed to stop. The recording continued playing. But neither heard anything else. Their minds were trapped by those words. Park Jimin. Years ago. Long before the confession. Long before the wedding. Long before everything. Jimin slowly turned toward Jungkook. His heartbeat pounded violently. What does that mean? Jungkook looked devastated. Absolutely devastated. Because this was the secret he had buried deeper than any other. The secret he never wanted Jimin to know. The truth he had carried alone for years. Tears appeared in his eyes. And for the first time since the wedding, genuine panic crossed his face. Jungkook. His voice shook. What does that mean? The answer refused to come. The silence stretched. Painful. Heavy. Unavoidable. Finally Jungkook sat down. His hands covered his face. His entire body trembled. Jimin had never seen him like this. Never. When Jungkook finally spoke, his voice sounded broken. Because he knew. Jimin stared. Knew what? Jungkook looked up. Tears shining beneath the city lights. The confession that followed changed everything. He knew I was already in love with you. The room became completely silent. Every sound disappeared. Every thought vanished. Only those words remained. Jimin's breath caught. His heart stopped. Because suddenly every year, every distance, every hesitation, every sacrifice, every unexplained goodbye, every moment Jungkook pulled away, every moment he seemed afraid, every moment he chose silence over honesty, suddenly made sense. And neither of them realized that somewhere across the city, Kang Minu sat alone in a dark room watching hidden security feeds. Watching, waiting, smiling, because the deepest secret was finally out. But he still had one last weapon, one final truth. And unlike everything that came before, this truth had the power to destroy not only Jungkook's future, but Jimin's as well. Jimin couldn't breathe. The words echoed endlessly inside his mind. He knew I was already in love with you. The penthouse suddenly felt too small, too quiet, too fragile. Outside, thunder rolled across the dark sky. A distant storm was approaching Seoul. Inside, another storm had already arrived. Jimin stared at Jungkook. Years. So many years. Years of friendship. Years of loyalty. Years of moments that now felt completely different. Every memory was changing. Every smile. Every glance. Every hesitation. Everything. Jungkook remained seated. His shoulders were trembling. The secret was finally exposed. A secret he had carried alone for nearly a decade. Jimin slowly sat across from him. Neither spoke immediately. Neither knew how. The truth was too large. Too painful. Too beautiful. Too tragic. Finally, Jimin broke the silence. Since when? Jungkook closed his eyes. The answer came quietly. Before I wanted to admit it. Jimin's heart tightened. How long? A painful smile appeared on Jungkook's face. Do you really want the answer? Yes. Another silence followed. Then Jungkook laughed bitterly. The first time you stayed up all night with me. Jimin froze. The memory returned instantly. Years ago. A difficult period. Jungkook had been exhausted. Emotionally drained. Unable to sleep. Unable to smile. Everyone else had gone home. Everyone else had moved on. Jimin had stayed. They talked until sunrise. About fears. Dreams. Failures. Nothing extraordinary. Nothing romantic. Just two people sharing a quiet night. Yet apparently that night had changed everything. Jimin looked away. His chest felt tight. That long? Jungkook nodded. That long? The confession hurt in ways neither expected. Not because of regret. Because of lost time. Years that could never return. Years spent hiding. Years spent afraid. Jimin swallowed hard. Why didn't you tell me? The question emerged almost as a whisper. Jungkook laughed. A sad laugh. Because I knew you. Jimin frowned. What does that mean? It means I knew your heart. The answer confused him. Jungkook looked up. His eyes carried years of buried emotion. You always put everyone else first. Jimin remained silent. Because it was true. Painfully true. Jungkook continued. If I confessed back then. His voice softened. You would have sacrificed yourself. Jimin looked stunned. Jungkook smiled sadly. You would have worried about me. The city lights reflected through the windows. You would have worried about the groups. You would have worried about the fans. His smile faded. And eventually you would have convinced yourself to walk away. Jimin couldn't answer. Because deep down he knew Jungkook wasn't entirely wrong. Years ago he would have done exactly that. The realization hurt. The room fell silent again. Then suddenly every television screen activated. Without warnings. Without permission. Static filled the penthouse. Jungkook immediately stood. What now? The screens flickered. Then Kang Minu appeared. Live. Not pre-recorded. Live. His face filled every display. The smile on his lips looked colder than ever. Good evening. Jimin's stomach dropped. Jungkook's expression darkened instantly. Minu folded his hands calmly. As if discussing business. As if he hadn't spent weeks destroying their lives. I see you finally started telling each other the truth. Neither responded. Minu's smile widened. But unfortunately, you're still missing part of the story. Jungkook stepped toward the screen. Leave us alone. No. The answer came immediately. Sharp. Absolute. No, Jungkook. For a moment the older man simply stared. Then his expression shifted. Something darker emerged. Something obsessive. Something frightening. You belong to me. The words echoed through the room. Jimin felt disgust immediately. Jungkook's fists clenched. No. Minu's eyes narrowed. I found you. No. I built your confidence. No. I made you strong. No. The repeated answer sounded almost like a weapon. A refusal. A rebellion. A liberation. Minu's calm facade began cracking. The anger underneath surfaced. Without me, you would have been nothing. The room became silent. Then Jungkook laughed. A genuine laugh. Unexpected. Dangerous. The reaction clearly caught Minu off guard. Jungkook stepped closer to the screen. For the first time, there wasn't fear in his eyes. Only clarity. No. His voice remained calm. You didn't build me. Minu's expression hardened. You broke me. Silence exploded. Jimin felt chills. The sentence struck with devastating precision. Years of manipulation reduced to a single truth. Minu stared. Unable to respond. Unable to deny it. Jungkook continued. And the worst part. His eyes burned. I spent years believing you. The older man's face darkened. The loss of control was visible now. Obvious. Terrifying. Because people like Kang Minu survived through influence. Through power. Through emotional dominance. And for the first time, that power was slipping away. Then Minu smiled again. A different smile. One that instantly alarmed both men. Interesting. Jungkook's instinct screamed. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Minu leaned forward. Then let's discuss the final secret. Jimin immediately felt his pulse accelerate. The final secret. The phrase sounded dangerous. Intentional. Cruel. Jungkook looked equally disturbed. What secret? Minu's eyes shifted toward Jimin. The silence stretched. Then he answered. The truth about Jimin's father. Everything stopped. Jimin froze. Jungkook froze. The world seemed to disappear. For several seconds nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Minu smiled. He had achieved exactly what he wanted. Shock. Confusion. Fear. Jimin stared at the screen. What did you just say? His voice sounded hollow. Minu remained calm. Your father. Jimin's face lost all color. The subject was sensitive. Painful. Complicated. His relationship with his father had always been difficult. Private. Something he rarely discussed. The older man continued. You never wondered why he disappeared for nearly a year when you were younger. Jimin's heartbeat exploded. The memory surfaced instantly. A missing year. Countless unanswered questions. A family that refused to explain. A mystery nobody would discuss. Jungkook turned toward him. Confusion filled his face. Jimin couldn't speak. Because he remembered. He remembered everything. The whispers. The arguments. The silence. The sudden absence. The unexplained return. His entire childhood had questions without answers. Minu's smile widened. Would you like to know where he was? Stop. The word escaped Jimin instantly. The room fell silent. Minu studied him carefully. Like a hunter observing wounded prey. You already know I'm telling the truth. Jimin's hands shook. Because part of him did. Part of him always had. There had always been something hidden. Something buried. Something nobody wanted him to discover. Jungkook stepped forward. Leave him out of this. Minu ignored him. His eyes remained locked on Jimin. The answers exist. Stop. You deserve the truth. Stop. The shout echoed through the penthouse. Jimin rarely raised his voice. Almost never. The pain behind it was impossible to ignore. Even Minu looked momentarily surprised. Tears filled Jimin's eyes. Years of uncertainty. Years of unanswered questions. Years of wounds reopening all at once. Jungkook immediately moved beside him. Protective. Instinctive. Without hesitation. His hand found Jimin's. A simple gesture. Yet powerful. Grounding. Steadying. Jimin looked down. Their fingers intertwined. The touch helped. Just enough. Minu noticed. And for the first time, something ugly crossed his face. Jealousy. Not romantic jealousy. Something deeper. Possessive jealousy. The anger of someone losing control. The anger of someone watching their influence disappear. His voice became colder. You're making a mistake. Jungkook looked directly at him. No. Minu's jaw tightened. You don't understand what's coming. Then explain it. The challenge hung between them. Heavy. Dangerous. For several seconds Minu said nothing. Then he smiled again. Slowly. Patiently. Like someone holding the final card in a game. You'll find out soon enough. The screens suddenly went black. Every one of them. The connection vanished. The penthouse fell silent once more. But the silence felt different now. Darker. More dangerous. Jimin stood frozen. His thoughts spiraling. His father's disappearance. The hidden secrets. The unanswered questions. The possibility that everything he believed about his own past was incomplete. Jungkook squeezed his hand gently. Jimin looked up. Their eyes met. No words were necessary. The fear remained. The uncertainty remained. The danger remained. But so did something else. Trust. After years of silence. After years of missed chances. After years of running from the truth. They were finally facing the darkness together. Neither of them realized that hundreds of kilometers away, inside a heavily guarded estate hidden beyond the city, Kang Minu stood before a wall covered with photographs. Jungkook, Jimin, families, friends, old documents, new documents, connections, secrets, years of investigation, years of obsession, years of planning. At the center of the wall hung a single faded photograph taken more than 20 years earlier. A photograph containing a man whose face looked disturbingly familiar. A man connected to Jimin's past. A man connected to Jungkook's future. A man whose identity had remained hidden for decades. Minu stared at the image and smiled. Because the truth he intended to reveal next wasn't merely scandalous. It wasn't merely shocking. It had the power to rewrite everything both men thought they knew about their lives. The following morning arrived beneath a sky the color of steel. Dark clouds drifted above Seoul. The city looked restless, almost anxious, as if it somehow sensed the storm that was coming. Inside the penthouse, neither Jungkook nor Jimin had slept. The conversation from the previous night continued replaying in their minds. The truth about Jungkook's hidden feelings. The threat involving Jimin's father. The photograph Kang Minu had shown. Everything felt connected. Yet neither of them could see the complete picture. Jimin stood alone in the kitchen. A cup of untouched coffee sat beside him. His thoughts remained trapped in childhood memories. Memories he had ignored for years. His father disappearing. His mother refusing to answer questions. Relatives changing the subject whenever he asked. At the time he had been too young to understand. Now those memories felt different. Suspicious. Dangerous. A quiet voice interrupted his thoughts. You've been staring at that coffee for 20 minutes. Jimin turned. Jungkook stood nearby. Despite his exhaustion, concern filled his eyes. Jimin forced a smile. It might be a new world record. Jungkook laughed softly. The sound briefly lightened the atmosphere. Then the smile faded. Because reality quickly returned. Jungkook approached him. What are you thinking? Jimin hesitated. Then answered honestly. What if he's telling the truth? The question lingered heavily between them. Jungkook understood immediately. About your father. Jimin nodded. A painful silence followed. Then Jungkook surprised him. Then we'll find out. Jimin looked up. Jungkook's expression remained calm. Determined. Steady. We'll find out together. The words hit harder than expected. For years Jimin had handled problems alone. Protected others alone. Carried burdens alone. Now someone stood beside him. Not behind him. Not ahead of him. Beside him. The realization made his chest tighten. Before he could respond, his phone rang. Both men froze. Unknown number. Again. The sight alone made tension flood the room. Jimin answered cautiously. Hello. No response. Only static. Then a woman's voice. Weak. Shaking. Almost whispering. Don't trust him. Jimin's heart skipped a beat. Who is this? The woman sounded terrified. He wants you to believe a lie. Jungkook immediately moved closer. Listening. Trying to hear. The woman's breathing became frantic. As if she were hiding. Running. Scared. Then she spoke 3 words that instantly changed everything. I know Paris. Jimin nearly dropped the phone. His blood turned cold. What? The woman continued. I was there. The room became completely silent. Jimin couldn't breathe. His pulse thundered inside his ears. The woman from Paris. The woman he had protected. Impossible. 4 years. 4 entire years. Yet somehow she had found him. Jimin's voice shook. Who are you? A soft laugh escaped. Sad. Exhausted. You saved my life. The memories returned instantly. The bridge. The rain. The confrontation. The terrified woman. She had vanished afterward. Without a trace. Until now. Jimin felt overwhelmed. Questions flooded his mind. Where are you? The woman hesitated. Then answered quietly. He knows I'm alive. Fear instantly filled the room. Kang Minu. She continued. He has been looking for me. Jungkook exchanged a glance with Jimin. Both understood the implication. If she was alive, then she could expose the truth. She could destroy Minu's version of events. She could prove everything. The woman spoke again. I have evidence. Jimin's heartbeat accelerated. Evidence. Exactly what they needed. Exactly what Minu feared. Meet me. The answer came immediately. But before she could provide a location, a loud crash echoed through the phone. The woman screamed. The connection cut instantly. Silence. Dead silence. Jimin stared at the screen. The call had ended. Jungkook's expression darkened. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Hours later, after multiple attempts to trace the number failed, a message finally arrived. No sender. No identifying information. Only an address. An abandoned theatre on the outskirts of the city. And a time. 11:00 p.m. Jimin looked at Jungkook. You think it's a trap? Probably. The honesty almost made Jimin laugh. Almost. But we still have to go. Yes. Neither argued. Because neither had a choice. Night eventually arrived. The theatre stood abandoned at the edge of the city. Its faded sign barely visible beneath flickering streetlights. The building looked forgotten. Dead. Perfect for secrets. Perfect for danger. Jungkook and Jimin entered through a side entrance. The old doors groaned loudly. Dust filled the air. The smell of age and decay surrounded them. Their footsteps echoed through empty hallways. Every shadow looked suspicious. Every sound felt wrong. Jimin's pulse raced. Something about the place felt unnatural, like walking into a memory that refused to stay buried. Finally, they reached the main auditorium. Rows of empty seats stretched before them. The stage remained illuminated by a single spotlight. At the center stood a woman, alone, waiting. Jimin stopped immediately. His eyes widened, because he recognized her. Older now, different hairstyle, different appearance, but unmistakably the same woman. The woman from Paris. She looked terrified, constantly checking over her shoulder, as if expecting someone to appear. You came. Her voice trembled. Jimin slowly approached. You're alive. A sad smile crossed her face. Barely. The answer sent chills down his spine. Jungkook remained alert, watching every corner of the theater, every exit, every shadow. The woman reached into her bag, then removed a small flash drive. Her hands shook violently. This contains everything. Jimin stared. What is it? The woman's eyes filled with fear. Kang Minu. The atmosphere instantly changed. She continued. Years ago I worked for him. Jungkook froze. The revelation hit immediately. She wasn't random. She wasn't a coincidence. She was connected. Deeply connected. The woman swallowed hard. I discovered what he was doing. Jimin frowned. What was he doing? The answer came quietly, yet it felt explosive. Collecting people. Silence. What? The woman looked around nervously, then continued. Famous people. Influential people. Powerful people. Her voice cracked. He follows them. The theater suddenly felt colder. He records everything. He gathers secrets. He builds files. Jungkook's stomach tightened, because it sounded exactly like what had happened to them. The woman nodded, as if reading his thoughts. You're not the first. Fear crept through the auditorium. A deeper fear. A larger fear. This wasn't obsession. This wasn't personal. This was systematic. Calculated. Years in the making. The woman handed the flash drive to Jimin. The proof is there. Jimin accepted it carefully, almost reverently. The object felt heavier than it should, because it represented answers. Finally, answers. Then a loud clap echoed through the theater. One clap. Slow, deliberate, mocking. Every person froze. Another clap followed. Then another. The sound came from the darkness behind the stage. Jungkook immediately stepped in front of Jimin. Protective. Instinctive. The applause continued. Slowly. Patiently. Then a familiar voice emerged. Very impressive. Fear instantly filled the room. Kang Minu stepped into the spotlight. Smiling. Calm. Composed. As if he had expected this moment all along. The woman's face lost all color. No. Minu laughed softly. You really thought you could hide forever. The woman backed away. Terrified. Jimin's pulse accelerated. Jungkook clenched his fists. The atmosphere became electric. Dangerous. Explosive. Minu's eyes moved toward the flash drive. His smile disappeared. For the first time all night, genuine anger surfaced. Give me that. Nobody moved. Nobody obeyed. The woman suddenly shouted. Don't listen to him. Her voice echoed through the theater. He ruins lives. Minu's expression darkened instantly. The mask slipped, revealing the monster beneath. The charming mentor vanished. The predator remained. Then he said something that stunned everyone. Including Jungkook. Including Jimin. Including the woman. You still don't understand. His eyes locked onto Jimin. Then onto Jungkook. And finally he smiled. A terrifying smile. Because it carried certainty. Because it carried victory. Because it carried a truth neither of them were prepared to hear. The reason I chose Jungkook wasn't random. The room fell silent. Minu slowly reached into his coat. Then removed an old photograph. A photograph yellowed by age. A photograph taken decades earlier. He held it toward them. Jimin looked first. Then froze. Jungkook looked second. And felt his entire world collapse. Because the photograph showed their fathers. Standing together. Smiling. 25 years ago. Long before either of them were born. Long before fame. Long before friendship. Long before love. And in the center of the photograph stood Kang Minu himself. Smiling beside them. As if he had been connected to both families from the very beginning. The photograph slipped from Jungkook's trembling fingers and landed on the dusty theater floor. For a moment nobody spoke. The silence felt endless. The weight of 25 years of secrets hung in the air. Jimin stared at the image. His father. Jungkook's father. Kang Minu. Standing together. Smiling. Connected long before fate had ever brought Jungkook and Jimin together. It felt impossible. Yet the photograph was real. Minu slowly stepped forward. His confidence had returned. His smile carried the satisfaction of a man who believed he had finally won. You understand now. Jungkook's voice emerged quietly. No, Minu frowned. Jungkook looked directly at him. I understand that you've spent your entire life trapped in the past. The answer surprised everyone. Even Minu. Jungkook took a slow breath. Then he picked up the photograph again. This time he studied it carefully. Not with fear. Not with confusion. But with clarity. The realization came suddenly. And once it arrived, everything made sense. You've never cared about us. Minu's smile faded. Jungkook continued. You cared about control. The theater became silent again. The woman from Paris watched carefully. Jimin watched carefully. Because something had changed. The fear that had haunted Jungkook for years was gone. Completely gone. Minu laughed. A cold laugh. You think you've figured everything out. No, Jungkook smiled. I think I've figured you out. The words struck harder than any accusation. For the first time, uncertainty flashed across Minu's face. Jungkook stepped closer. His voice remained calm. You collected secrets because you were afraid. Minu's eyes narrowed. You manipulated people because you were afraid. The older man's jaw tightened. You controlled lives because you were afraid of being forgotten. Silence. Absolute silence. The truth landed with devastating force. Because deep down, everyone in the room knew it was true. Minu had never been powerful. He had been terrified. Terrified of irrelevance. Terrified of abandonment. Terrified of becoming invisible. So he built his empire out of other people's fears. Other people's pain. Other people's secrets. The woman from Paris slowly nodded. Jimin's eyes widened. And Minu's. For the first time he looked old. Tired. Broken. His carefully constructed image began to crack. Then he laughed again. But this time the sound lacked confidence. None of that changes reality. Jimin finally spoke. Maybe not. Minu turned toward him. Jimin stepped beside Jungkook. Their shoulders touched. A simple gesture, yet somehow more powerful than any speech. You spent years trying to keep us apart. Minu remained silent. Jimin smiled sadly. And you failed. The words echoed throughout the theater. Minu's expression hardened. The flash drive remained in Jimin's hand. Evidence. Proof. Years of secrets. Years of manipulation. Years of crimes. Everything Minu had spent decades protecting. And now it was over. Police sirens suddenly echoed outside. Distant at first. Then closer. Much closer. The woman from Paris smiled through tears. I called them before you arrived. Minu froze. The realization hit him instantly. For the first time all night, genuine panic appeared in his eyes. The sirens grew louder. Red and blue lights flashed through broken windows. His empire was collapsing. Finally. Completely. Minu looked at Jungkook one last time. Then at Jimin. For a brief moment, sadness appeared on his face. Not remorse. Not regret. Only the sadness of a man realizing he had lost. After years of controlling every outcome. After years of manipulating every situation. He had finally encountered something stronger. Truth. And love. The theater doors burst open. Police officers entered rapidly. The ending arrived without drama. Without violence. Without escape. Because men like Kang Minu often imagined themselves as masterminds. But in the end, they were simply human. And humans eventually face consequences. As officers led him away, he stopped briefly. His eyes found Jungkook. You could have been extraordinary. Jungkook smiled. For the first time in years, there was no fear in his expression. No. His answer came gently. I already am. Minu disappeared into the darkness beyond the theater doors. And with him vanished 10 years of shadows. 10 years of fear. 10 years of control. The chapter was finally over. Several months later, life slowly began to heal. The evidence contained on the flash drive exposed everything. Minu's network collapsed. Victims came forward. Investigations spread across multiple countries. The truth could no longer be buried. As for the mystery surrounding their fathers, the answer turned out to be simpler than anyone expected. Years ago, before fame and before success, their fathers had briefly worked together on a business project connected to Minu. When they discovered his manipulative behavior, they cut ties and walked away. The photograph had been real. The conspiracy had not. Minu had spent decades obsessing over old grudges, building fantasies around relationships that had ended long ago. The revelation brought relief. Not because it erased the pain, but because it ended the uncertainty. For the first time there were answers. Real answers. One spring evening, months after the scandal, Jungkook and Jimin found themselves standing beside the Han River. The city glowed softly around them. Cherry blossoms drifted through the air. The world felt quieter now. Not perfect, but peaceful. They walked slowly along the riverbank. No cameras. No reporters. No secrets. Just two people finally allowed to breathe. Jimin looked toward the water. Do you ever think about that day? Jungkook smiled. The wedding. Jimin laughed. The disaster. Jungkook laughed too. The sound carried none of the sadness it once had. Sometimes. And Jungkook stopped walking. The evening breeze moved gently through his hair. Then he turned toward Jimin. His eyes held the same honesty that had changed everything. If I could go back. Jimin waited. Jungkook reached for his hand. Their fingers intertwined naturally. Comfortably. Like they had always belonged there. I would still choose you. The words were simple, yet they carried years of meaning. Years of sacrifice. Years of fear. Years of love. Jimin's eyes glistened. A smile appeared. Soft, beautiful, real, good. Jungkook laughed. That's all you have to say. Jimin stepped closer. Because I'd choose you too. For a moment neither spoke. The city lights shimmered across the river. The wind carried petals through the night. And somewhere behind them, the past finally loosened its grip. Not every wound disappeared. Not every scar faded. But healing had begun. The world would always remember the wedding Jungkook cancelled. The headlines, the scandal, the controversy, the confession that shocked millions. But those things were never the real story. The real story was about two people who spent years hiding from the truth. Two people who learned that fear can build prisons stronger than walls. And two people who finally discovered that the most difficult choice is often the right one. As they stood together beneath the falling cherry blossoms, the future stretched before them. Uncertain, beautiful, free, and for the first time in a very long time, neither of them was afraid to walk toward it.